All right, looks like we're going live there, and we'll go live here as well. We're live everywhere. Welcome, 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 everyone. And again, as people are coming into the room, just a quick recap of what we're about to do in the next 10 seconds. We're going to be doing a quick tutorial because users have asked for this, and that is how to use style sheets. I'm going to tell you what style sheets are. We're going to see a quick example. We're going to see a better example. And then we'll see some examples in different programs if time permits. So just a side note for those of you who are saying, well, what is a style sheet? What do I use it for? When would I use it? Do I have to use it? You don't have to use style sheets. You can absolutely go into your text in any application, just type your text, format it any way you want, and be done. When style sheets are useful or when they come in handy is when you want to have the flexibility of A, being able to change your mind without having to go touch everything once again, and B, the other thing is to not only change your mind, but to quickly format text that you're composing or that you're adding to the document so that you don't have to touch it and do all the same things over and over and over again. So I see some folks here. Tony, hello. Glad I popped up on your screen, Peter. And Colleen, good evening from Cape Town, all the way in South Africa. Welcome, Raymond and Danny and Kaplish and Cortland. Welcome, everyone. I see some folks on Twitter as well. dfigure81. I think I saw the name before it disappeared. Welcome, everyone. So let's go ahead and dive in. All right, so with that said, I've got InDesign open. Like I said, I'm going to talk about it in Photoshop and Illustrator as well because the process is pretty much the same. The only reason I'm going to do it mostly in InDesign is because you have more options in InDesign. What I mean by that is if you go up to your window menu in InDesign, you come down to styles, typically people talk about paragraph styles and character styles, which is what we're going to focus on today. But InDesign also has object styles for formatting graphic frames, table styles for formatting tables, cell styles for formatting cells of those tables. So when you think about what I'm going to show you in paragraph styles, even though I won't get to all of these, just remember that you can apply the same concept in InDesign to your table styles, character styles, and cell styles. Now, again, let's say you don't use InDesign. Let's pop over to Photoshop. Photoshop has paragraph and character styles as well, and you can get to those under the window menu, paragraph styles and character styles. You can bring those up in Photoshop. And pop over to Illustrator, same thing. Illustrator has a paragraph styles panel and a character styles panel. So the applications pretty much have the same consistency across the board of not only calling them the same thing, dedicated panels for them, and they work pretty much the same way, at least under concept. Photoshop can be a little finicky when it comes to style sheets. Illustrator, somewhere in between Photoshop and InDesign. InDesign typically is the easiest and best to do it. So that's why we're going to do it there. All right, so let's pop back over to InDesign. Now that you've seen, no matter where you are learning this or whatever application you're learning this, the process is going to be the same. All right, so I'm going to bring up my paragraph styles panel. I'm going to undock it so it's not buried over there. And I'm also going to bring up my character styles panel. I'm going to undock that as well so it's not buried. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. There we go. Let's tear it off. There we go. And let's talk about what this means. So for example, let's say that you were going to, let's create some text and then let's duplicate it so we can do it twice. All right, so I'm going to do this once. I'm going to create some text and I'm going to say, this is my, oh, I'm in a weird font. Hang on. Let's get rid of this. All right, let's do this first. Grab my type tool. I don't want to be in Proxima Nova bold black italic. Let's be regular. All right. Okay. So now let's try this again. We'll create a frame. We'll type, this is our headline. And then we'll fill the rest with body copy. So let's just go to type. I never remember where this is in the menu. It's here. There it is. Fill with placeholder text. And we'll just fill the rest of that frame with text. Okay. And we're going to delete some of that because we're going to need the space. All right. So now I'm just going to duplicate that frame. hold down my Option or Alt key on Windows and just drag it down and duplicate it. So we're going to format the first one, create style sheets, and then use those style sheets to format the second one. So if you're going to create a style sheet, you typically go ahead and make at least one example of what you want the style sheet to look like. In other words, if I were going to have 100 pages and maybe 20 of those pages would have headlines for different articles, I want all my headlines to look the same. So I'm going to make one headline look the way I want it to look and then define that as a style sheet for headlines. All right, so for example, maybe this one isn't called, this is our headline. Maybe it's our second headline. All right, just to be different. All right, so now we go to our first headline and do all the things to it you want to do. We want to make it bigger. Okay, let's make it bigger. I'm using Command Shift greater than, which works across the board in our applications. I want to make it heavier, so let's use that we'll use the same font, Proxima Nova, but we'll make it black. All right, you can kern it, track it, change the color of it, all the things you want to do. So I want to change the color of it. We'll use just a basic color. We'll just use red. All right, so now I've done all the things I want to do to it. And again, there's no limit. Whatever way you want to format that text using whatever font, size, color, tracking, kerning, well, not kerning, but tracking, because kerning is between individual pairs of letters. Style, whatever you want to do to it, go ahead and format that type the way you want. Now that you've got it formatted, put your cursor anywhere in it or highlight any part of it, and then come over to the paragraph styles and click the new icon for new paragraph style. So when I click new paragraph style, it added it, but notice it's still saying that it's on basic paragraph style, which means it added it, but it didn't use it. To use it, we're just going to click on it. So now this paragraph, meaning from the letter T to the end of the line, is using paragraph style 1. Now, paragraph style 1 and paragraph style 2 and paragraph style 20 is not going to mean much to you after a while. So you can double click on your paragraph styles and you can name them. So I can say that this is a headline. This is for all my headlines. And notice what it does. It shows me my style settings. So my style settings use Proxima Nova black, 52 point, color is CMYK, those values. Shading is black, shading 10 is 20%. So when I click OK, that's all done, and now it's using headline. Okay, let's keep going. What do we want our body copy to be? So let's highlight, again, any part of this. So let's highlight this first paragraph here, and maybe I want a totally different font. Let's do Minion. Do I have Minion? All right, here, let's just use a serif font. I want to use a filter. We'll use one. We'll do it the new way. We'll use a serif. The name doesn't have to be Playbox. All right. And what else? It doesn't have to be a favorite. That way we can get the rest of our fonts. All right. I will use Minion Pro. Okay, Minion Pro. And maybe you want it smaller. So instead of 12 point, you want 10 point. And maybe you want it justified. Again, just for kicks. Oh, God, no, we don't want that justification. And you're doing all of this just as an example. You format it any way you want. You want it bigger, make it bigger. You want a different font, make it a different font. You want a different color, make it a different color. It's up to you. There's no law to how the text has to be formatted. All right, so now that I've done that, I'm going to make another new style. Click Create New Style. It's going to call it Paragraph Style 1 again because that name's still available. I'm going to not only select it, but then I'm going to double click and change it. So we'll change it to body text or body copy, whatever you want to call it. The names don't have to be anything in particular. Okay, so now we've got our basic headline and body text. So now I can use these styles to format the rest of the text that we have here. So for example, for the rest of the paragraphs, these should all be body text. And look, it just quickly formatted them. We can zoom in a little so you can see what they look like. Quickly formatted them to the proper specs. We go down to the next one. This first one should be headline. Boom, just makes it headline. Second one, or the rest of these paragraphs, should be body. Boom, makes them body. So that's why we love using style sheets to format things, because once you get the style sheet set up, then it's just a matter of putting your cursor in those paragraphs and clicking them to what you want them to be. All right, that's the first benefit. You just saw it. The first benefit is once I create them, I can easily go in and style the rest of my text the way I want. What's the second benefit? The second benefit's even better, because it means that I can change my mind now without having, let's say I have, again, 20 headlines, 100 headlines, 1,000 copies of body text. I don't have to go in now and touch them if the design changes. So for example, let's say my client hates red headlines. They want them to be another color. Well, if you didn't use style sheets, you'd have to go highlight every headline and change it to a different color, which is tedious, time-consuming, and a waste of time. Now all I have to do is, let me get out of this. I'm just going to show it to you. I'm just going to double-click on headline to get back to the style settings for it. I'm going to go to character color, and I'm just going to make it the blue that they wanted it to be. Now I could preview it, but I'm just going to surprise you when I click OK. So I've made it blue instead of whatever it was, red, and now when I click OK, it goes through and formats all of our headlines to be blue everywhere we use that style sheet. So hundreds of pages of now blue headlines instead of red. So that's the second biggest benefit, is that I don't have to touch the individual ones. Okay, does this get saved with the individual document? Yes, it does. And if so, add more at a future date. Is it still there? Sure. So this headline and this body text are tied to this document. Now, there are ways to import styles and save styles out, so that load paragraph styles, there we go. Load paragraph styles will let you load them in from another document. So for example, let's say I like the headline and body text, but now I want to create a whole new document that has nothing to do with this document, but I don't want to have to redefine those styles. I would just create the new document, which won't have any styles, go to load paragraph styles. It's going to bring up a dialog box, and I would point to this document that I would save somewhere and say, yep, load them in from yesterday's brochure, newsletter, whatever it was. And it would bring in headline and body copy and so forth and so on. So they are tied to the document, but you can import them into another document if you need them. Does this work the same in Photoshop? Yes, it does. That's why I brought up Photoshop and Illustrator first, to show you the same panels work the same way. And if you weren't here, you missed it. But I'll go back to those in a second. All right, so now let's say that, the headlines are too big. Same thing. Double click on headline. Go to the basic character formats here. Instead of 52 point, maybe they should be smaller. They should be 40 point. And then when I click OK, it makes all the headlines throughout the entire document 40 point instead of 48 point. And once I save the document, the headlines are saved. Oh, they don't like Minion Pro, or it's too small, or it's hard to read, or whatever. Maybe they want a sans serif font instead. So in this case, I would go double click on body text, go to my basic character formats, change it from whatever font it's on to whatever I want. So maybe I want Myriad Pro instead, and maybe I want 12-point type instead of 10. So now I click OK, and all of my body copy throughout my entire publication gets changed. I don't have to touch the paragraphs one by one. You've been there. Highlight, double click, triple click, change. Highlight, double click, triple click, change. No, we don't want to do that. Set it up as a style sheet, and you'll never have to touch the individual paragraphs again, unless the words need to change. You don't have to change it for text. You don't have to touch it for the formatting. All right, so let me show you. I said if there were time, I'd show you some of the caveats we'll jump over to Photoshop. So someone asked, does it work the same way? Yes, for the most part, but Photoshop can be a little trickier because there's something I haven't talked about yet, which are overrides. So for example, let's pop over to Photoshop, and I've got these artboards, and you can tell that they all kind of have the same title, lorem ipsum. We haven't changed what the text says. This is a template, but not only is it the same font and the same style, but you notice that like over here it gets smaller. So that's a smaller version of this. This one is even slightly smaller than this one. So they're not a consistent size. And that could be troublesome for creating a style sheet, because style sheets mean that everything's the same. Well, everything here is not the same. Even though they're the same font, same color, they're not the same size, and that will screw up a style sheet. So for example, let's say I like this lorem ipsum the way it is, and I go over to paragraph styles and I create a new style, just like we did before. And I double click on it and I call it headline. All right. And I click OK. And right off the bat, I see a plus sign. And this plus sign means that there is some kind of override on what you currently have. And it's like, how can there be an override? I just set it up. Why would there be an override? So that's one of those little gotchas inside of Photoshop. So I'm going to click, see if I can get rid of the override. Hang on, let's see. Yep. Let's see if we do it this way. All right, let's clear the override. And see, it got rid of one of my words for some reason. So let's go in and say, let's call this headline. And this is when it starts to get weird. And we get rid of our override one more time. And then something happened with my size. So yeah, the size went down. So let's bring that back up to maybe, I don't know, 48 point. Maybe bigger. 100 point. And it's Myriad Pro. Let's make it black. There we go. So now we're redefining that style, and now we've made it. Okay. So if we go here, now this is Myriad Pro. Headlines are Myriad Pro, whatever I said, 48 point Myriad Pro black. So if I come over here and I change this to be headline 2, for example, and I want that to be styled like headline 2, then I just come down here and see, it just does these weird things. So I'd have to clear the overrides, and then it will make it headline 2. So it's not as smooth as it is in InDesign because Photoshop ends up with a lot of overrides. But I think if you started from scratch the way I did in InDesign, you'd have less issues, as opposed to trying to apply them to an existing document. They can be applied to an existing document, no problem, but you're going to run into issues of needing to clear overrides. So that's it. Yeah, it works the same way in Photoshop, but you're going to run into this, oh, that's a smaller size, so it's got an override issue. So either A, you're okay with it having that override of the smaller size and maybe a different font, or B, you're not. And so if you're not, then you're going to clear the override, which means it's going to make it that font, and in this case, it kept the size. Now, the other problem with it, with Photoshop in particular, is that size can be made a couple of different ways. It can be sized as a typical point size, but it can also be scaled. So that's why, yes, they work in Photoshop, but they're a lot trickier because of what Photoshop can do. All right, we talked about paragraph styles. Let's pop back over to InDesign. One other style we didn't talk about while we have time are character styles. Paragraph styles, as the name implies, formats the entire paragraph. So the entire paragraph, this is a headline, got formatted. Maybe it's our second headline got formatted. All of this got formatted. But what if I only want to format a word or a couple of letters or whatever? Then paragraph styles aren't the answer, because paragraph style is going to format the whole thing. That's where character styles come in. And yes, Photoshop and Illustrator also have character styles and work the same way, with their caveats. All right, so let's go in and let's say that we want to take this one word, saquinto, and we want to change it completely. We're going to choose a different font. Let's make it, we were using Proxima Nova earlier. And again, let's get rid of some of these filters. Clear all. There we go. Proxima Nova. And we want it to be bold, and we want it to be a different color so it stands out. Again, I don't have a bunch of colors defined here. Let's make it green just so we can see it, but I would not do that normally. All right, we'll make it green. We'll make it 12-point Proxima Nova bold. Okay, so now that's not a paragraph style because that's just that one selection. So we come in and we make that a character style. And we can call it a call out, a standout, whatever you want to call it. green bold text, whatever you want to call it. Let's just call it a pop out or standout. All right. Call a style whatever you want, and then you can use character styles on anything you highlight. So there it is, my green, ugly green text. And now if I go in and highlight this word and click on that character style, no problem. Highlight this word, click on that character style, no problem. And the same thing. So whatever I highlight, it doesn't have to even be the entire word. So instead of nectar, I just highlight NEC and make it stand out. So you can make character styles apply to any selection of text and apply the character style to it. But it has the same second benefit. That is, your client hates green, or you change your mind and green was a bad idea, or maybe the font was a bad idea. All you'd have to do now is go in and let's get out of the text first. All you have to do is go in, change standout to be whatever you want it to be now. So instead of it being green, and again, I'm working with a limited color palette here, but let's say we want it to be red instead, just because that'll stand out. And instead of the Proxima Nova bold, we want Proxima Nova black. All right, to make it stand out more. We click OK. Everywhere we've used that character style now gets updated. Whether you did this in Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, or any other application that has paragraph and character styles, they should work the same way. Can you save styles to CC libraries, Raymond's asking? Yes and no. Not full-on paragraph and character styles the way you work with them in the panel, but there is a way to do it in a library. So for example, let me go to my library. I think I have one called Adobe Live. Adobe Live 2018. So this is a library that I've been working with. Notice there's a character style section. So these are character styles that were saved from other demos I did. If I like this styling, then I can go down here to the plus sign and I can add that character style to it. So that will format that character style for me. If I like the styling of this headline, I can go down here because we're in InDesign and save that as a paragraph style. And that paragraph style is there now. So it depends also on the application. For example, if we pop back over to Photoshop, for example, and we go to that same library, which was my Adobe Live 2018, and I go to character styles. Great, I can use those. Let's see, patterns, but paragraph styles are grayed out because InDesign can do things to type in paragraphs that Photoshop can't. So they just basically stop you from doing it because they don't want you getting maybe you didn't only use a simple thing like the type size and color, which Photoshop can do. But because styles can contain things in InDesign that Photoshop styles can't, they gray out the paragraph styles. But character styles are fair game. So if I come over here, let's highlight this text and let's say test, and we highlight it and we go to that character style that I just did. We go to that character style that I just did. Didn't do anything. Hang on. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. I don't know what I just clicked on, but I just did something weird. All right, let's get one of these selected instead. All right, and we're on that one. Okay, I just want to make sure I know which one I'm on. Select that layer, select that character style. And it's doing it, but it's doing something else weird to the type. So it may have made the type too big, too small, probably too small in this case. So yeah, it should work here. Let's create a new document. Let's not do it on that existing type. Because I didn't create this type, so I don't know what this is. All right, no, we don't want that. Let's create a custom one. Here we go. And we'll just do test. And here, let's choose it. Let's make it something else so we can see if it really worked. It looks like it worked, but let's make it something different. All right, there we go. Interesting. Okay, it's just, it works. It was a delay, and I don't know if it's because I had it highlighted or not. Let's do one more test. It's going to drive me crazy. Let's again make it a different color, different font. All right. All right, there we go. So it does work. Character styles that created that character style called standout, even carried the name over to the library and used it in a different application. So it can happen, just paragraph styles don't come over. But paragraph styles is another way, instead of having to import them from another document, using your CC libraries is another way to manage them or keep them so that you can use them in every document you create. So now if I were to go to a different document, I still have access to those paragraph and character styles in InDesign because they're in a library, even though this document has different character styles and no paragraph styles. So for example, if I select this text, click on this headline paragraph style, it remembered what my headline paragraph style was, and it even adds it to the panel so that I can manage it from here on out in this document. Come down here, same thing. Paragraph styles in the libraries is a good thing. All right, so all of these need to be headlines. There we go, and one more. Two more, and we're done. Now, again, if I like the body copy from the other document, no problem. Pop over to the other document, click anywhere in the body copy, and add that body copy text or paragraph style to my library. There it is, body text. Switch over to the other document, and then I can highlight, for example, all of these paragraphs and make them body text, and it will apply those styles to that body text. So, to answer your question, yes, in CC libraries, actually that's a great option, especially for InDesign. Can be a good option for Illustrator and Photoshop, but just keep in mind you might be limited to just character styles in the other applications. Let's pop over to Illustrator and see what we get there. So in Illustrator, in my library panel, which is right here, switch to that same library. Here I do get the paragraph styles and the character styles. So here I can use both. So it's just Photoshop that limits us to just the character styles from a library. So same thing, if I come here and select headline and I click my headline, it's too big. Let's make the frame bigger. There we go. It brings over my headline too. Make these frames bigger. We should be able to use it across the board. All right, so same thing here. Headline and headline. Now, let's say same thing. Client says, oh, maybe that would look better if it were all caps. So do I have to go through and retype headline 1 and headline 2 and headline 3 in all caps? No, I don't. If I double click on headline, which is what we used, I can get to it to redefine it. Hang on a second. Let's get out of the text. There we go. And I go to my basic character formats. Case, there we go. We'll say all caps for the case. Click OK. And everywhere I've used that style sheet is now all caps. Got to make room for the number, but it did work. So that's another just good point to make, is that when you're using these styles, make sure, especially if you're making text bigger, that everywhere you've used the style, you've got room to make the text bigger and it didn't create an overset situation in the frame. So taking styles that we created from InDesign, using them in Illustrator and Photoshop with their respective limits in the case of Photoshop. But works great in Illustrator because Illustrator has more text-like capabilities of InDesign than Photoshop does. All right. And of course, the character style can be used as well. So if I highlight a word and I use the character style from the InDesign document, it just formats it and then adds it to my Illustrator document as well. Style sheets, they're awesome. Use them. Can you export the style out and share it to other designers so you can have a consistent single point? Yes, a couple ways. We already looked at one. You can just create a library and share that library with all your colleagues. They would have all your styles. Two, if you go to the style panel, and the style panel, you have the ability to load them from another document. So what you could do is create a document just with a sample of each style, share that document, everyone can load it in. But it's probably easier if everyone's using the same applications to just do it via libraries, except for in the case of Photoshop where you would want the paragraph styles that Photoshop can create. All right, so that's a good question, Danny. And I think that is about it. Let me go check for more questions just to make sure. Why nested styles are useful, Thomas? That's going to be a whole different demo because once I get started on it, we'll be here for another 10 to 15 minutes. But nested styles is an InDesign exclusive feature that allows you to nest character styles inside your paragraph styles based on certain rules. So for example, let's say all your paragraphs start off with the word the words in the beginning colon, and then the rest of the text. You could have that in the beginning colon formatted with a specific character style, and then the rest of the text formatted with the paragraph style. So that's nested styles, a feature of InDesign. Illustrator and Photoshop don't have nested styles at this point. All right. Yep, someone already answered that question that I already answered. Or someone else answered the question I answered. All right, I think I got all the questions that I saw. And Merry Christmas to you guys as well. And hello from the University of Louisiana. Glad you guys are watching from the school. And I think that is about it. That's your quick getting started on how to master text formatting with your paragraph and character styles. And with that said, thanks for watching. And catch me tomorrow for a special InDesign. We're going to do something cool in InDesign on the InDesign channel. Same time, facebook.com/InDesign. We're going to do a way of creating custom holiday tags for your packages, for your gifts, with the person's name on it, customized. Like, in other words, instead of you having to type the name on every single tag and print it out, we're going to let InDesign do that using an old feature of InDesign called Data Merge. So we're going to see how that works tomorrow. Cheers, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one. I'll see you tomorrow for those of you who are interested on that InDesign cool tutorial that we're going to do at 1 p.m. Pacific. Facebook.com/InDesign, as well as these other channels I'm streaming on today. Bye, everybody.